William, great to see you. Thanks for setting this up. And looking forward to this ninth edition of our podcast. You know, you guys may know that I've got an AI agent hosted with 9 agents. Actually, I named Baxter after the poet Baxter Black, and he helped me MC a meeting yesterday where we did a transition for my Rotary Club, and was able to take bits and pieces that he knew about me and about my club, about what we do, and we made a really nice presentation yesterday.
Outstanding. And one of the things, guys, thank you for joining us, whether you're an old friend of the show or a brand new friend of the show. We bring news stories, we bring use cases, and it's called AI for Knuckle-Draggers because there are a lot of great pods out there that can be a little bit heady and a little bit tech heavy. And we listen to those and we are using the tools every day. And our goal is to break things down in ways that make them manageable and easy to understand. Mike, one of the, I think, really big news stories, and guys, stick around because at the end of the show, we're going to be going through some use cases that Mike and I are doing every day that are dramatically making the quality of our life and the impact we're having better. But the big news story I want to talk about right now is how GLM 2.5, this is a Chinese open source model, has just come out, and it is toe to toe with Opus 4.8 and ChatGPT 5.5. So for us knuckle draggers out there, Mike, what does that mean? What's going on?
Well, it's complicated because I think that we're in a race, whether we recognize it or not. The United States and the Western world is in a race with China to kind of figure out who's gonna kind of take a leading position in the creation of artificial intelligence and the tools that we all get to use. Um, and traditionally, it's been thought that the Western world's been maybe 6 months ahead of where the Chinese models are. Seems like maybe they're catching up. Or I think another way to think about it is that maybe Anthropic and OpenAI are maybe not releasing all of their best and brightest right away for fear that it might go through and be used to educate some of the competitor models as well. So I think there's a lot going on, but what it is saying is that there's going to be a lot of competition for compute and for the models that we use to build our artificial intelligence tools with, which I think is good news to me, because to me, where there's more competitors, it means prices should be reasonable as we go through and we build these things out.
Well, the big news story here is we were teased with Fable 5, which is a version of Anthropic's Mythos, and we only had access to it for less than a week, and the government had Anthropic pull it. And now ChatGPT is teasing 5.6, which is their latest, greatest frontier model. That is now going through a government deployment protocol, which none of us really know what it is. So one of the big issues is this idea of intelligence being throttled, intelligence being controlled, and what happened. And again, this is going to that Chinese U.S. story. What China did is there's a process called distillation. And as soon as Fable came out, they created like 25,000 accounts and they started asking all of these questions. They took all of that data, and that's how they trained GLM 2.5. And that's how they've become experts at, for lack of a better term, stealing, U.S. Intelligence IP. The real story behind the story, though, is the cutting edge models are being held back. We don't have access to Mythos. We don't have access to 5.6. China has now caught up to the best models that are available. ChatGPT 5.5, which Mike and I use all the time. That's our codex, who's running our agents, and Anthropic's Opus 4.8. Here's what's happening, though, and there are major companies that are going open source because the cost is, it can be 90% less expensive. So if you're getting the same level of intelligence, you can control it. You can have it on a system in your computer or in your home office. It's changing the dynamics of the game. And one of the things, Mike, I want to talk about is, how much intelligence is necessary to do the job. because we're already at almost genius level and we're passing all these benchmarks in all these verticals. A lot of major, and I've got a list of them I can run through. A lot of major US companies are switching from our frontier models, Anthropic and OpenAI, and they're moving to these Chinese open source models, which basically what
Yeah,
it means is with a
but part of it,
license,
because it's open source, means they can host it themselves.
100%. And
So for me, and you and I have talked about this, and I think by the end of the year, I will too be on an open source model, and most of the domestic engines aren't fully open source, where I can download them onto my machine and I can go through and run my business and keep my data secure and all that. So I'm kind of, you and I have talked a little bit about Elon Musk and Grok and some of that, and I have no inside information, but just knowing what I know about Elon Musk, he doesn't like being in second, third, or fourth place for very long. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody, Google or maybe SpaceX AI, comes out with an open source domestic model that we could go through and download, put on our own machines, start to run our own engines, our own agent teams off of that. But I think that's one of they may be running it in terms of domestic companies, might be running open source AI, but I don't believe they're just putting all their data out there so it can be harvested from.
no, no. And
They're
I've got the
maintaining it
list
on their
right now.
machines.
As of this morning, these are some major US companies that are using open source Chinese models. We've got Lindy, we've got Cursor, we've got Coinbase, we've got Shopify, we've got Airbnb, we've got Uber Eats, we've got Siemens. These are major companies, and what they're doing to address the security concern, because here's the problem. Whatever you give to Anthropic and OpenAI, they're taking it. And even though Anthropic said that, oh well, we're not going to we're going to keep all your stuff private. This was when they gave us a Fable release for 30 days, unless we flag your company. And if we flag your company and they don't explain how they're going to flag your company, that information or data can be locked up for 2 years. So what companies are doing is they're investing in power in-house computers. And there are smaller systems that, Mike and I have our agents kind of living on our own boxes at home. But these companies are bringing in these, 512 gigabyte in memory. They're bringing in these larger systems. They're hosting them. Now, one of the things we know, the Chinese models have been, they've been raised. Like if you go in right now and you go to the GLM 2.5's website, if you ask them about Tiananmen Square, you're not going to get an answer. If you ask it about travel in Taiwan, you're not going to get an answer. But because the models are open source, you can bring them in, you can put them on a box, you can retune them, you can remove the bias, you can remove anything that isn't serving you, and then all of your data, all of your IP, all of your private stuff is controlled by your company. And these are pretty cutting edge intelligences. And as memory becomes scarce, as intelligence can be uh, given away, taken, um, access really restricted, I'm definitely serious about investing in my own agent machine where I get to keep my intelligence and I can run my life and I can run my business on a local machine.
Yeah, I've got a competitive supportive relationship with another group that does some advising. And I was speaking with one of their principals. They're already $300,000 in and 9 months into building out their own internal system. And what they told me is that they think they're probably, even though they're maybe 85% of the way getting done, um, with a hosted AI model where they can keep customer data separated and all that. They think they're probably still another $300,000 away. And I think maybe it's possible they have the wrong people running the thing, because I don't think it's going to cost us that. I think we're probably going to be for less than $50,000, probably be able to put something together that's exceptionally robust, and
100%.
maybe even closer to $10,000. I'm not sure yet, but it's that price point's coming down rapidly to where if you're a business that's making a few $100,000 a year in net profit, you could start envision a world where you have your own hosted model in your office that you're production managers, your estimators, your sales team, what your executive team, whoever has, and it's just yours. It's not taking your trade secrets. It's not taking your ideas. It's not taking your business model or whatever makes you special and pushing it out into an entity that you're not familiar with, where potentially it could now become distributed to everybody else in your industry without you really knowing it. And it wouldn't necessarily be so broad as saying, oh, Mike Schmitt came up with a new idea and we're going to go through and push it out. It's going to be that you're training the model so that when somebody a competitor of yours says, oh, well, have you thought about this? And they're
Right.
not going to credit you, and they were not going to, but now it's going to distill that information across a broader platform. So that first mover's advantage might become a little more shortened in time frame if you're broadcasting out around OpenAI or Anthropic or one of those guys.
So, how do we boil this down and make sense for you guys? You've got closed models, which are Grok, Anthropic, OpenAI. So they own the intelligence, they sell the intelligence, they access the data, everything that we put in. There are some corporate accounts where they say they will restrict things, but it's a really big if. And even to Mike's point, if they're not sharing actual IP, they are training the models on these tools. So they're learning how to do what we do, and they've got bigger and faster brains. So those are the closed source models. Open source models are typically they're given away with a license. There might be a small token fee, and even to that token fee, there are a lot of companies right now that are spending hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars a month on tokens through Anthropic and through ChatGPT. And these other, the real news story is GLM 2.5 is at the same benchmarks. And it is, I believe it's like, and I'll check this so you guys get the actual numbers, but it's something like 2 cents on the dollar for token costs versus closed system and open system. So these companies are, when you're looking at an AI ROI, right? You're going, well, wait, I can get equal intelligence. I can get it at a 98% discount, and I can get it locked down and housed in my own company. And I really believe that's the trend. And to a certain extent, we're already doing that. We're creating agent or agentic computers for people where all of their own context and their information lives housed in a small system, on their desk. And I'm getting nervous about accessibility. I'm getting nervous about the cost of intelligence. And so as we move into the back half of 2026, pay attention to open source. And it's going to be interesting to see how the frontier labs are going to compete with the Chinese that are masters of, let's call it replication
But
kindly.
William, if I own the model and it's on my own machine, what am I paying for tokens?
So if you own the model, and again, let me verify because we don't want to do any misinformation. If you own the model and it's on your machines, I believe it's free. You're not going to have an API cost. If you own it and it's on your machine and you've got the license, and the other thing that you can do is because all of the code is open source, is as I mentioned with some of the inherent bias in some of the Chinese models, you can fork them and you can create your own branch of GLM 2.5 that has the data and information you want. And that's something we're going to talk a little bit more in the show is the importance of context. Having your machine, having your agent team know everything about your company, everything about your organization that you need, and then having it locked down so it actually is protected. And we do that by having it in-house.
Yeah, I mean, the way I envision it, once we go through and we build these out, we're going to go through and have them, and they will go off machine a little bit to do low risk requests from the other
And
models,
research, and
right?
research.
Research, maybe some low level computation. I could see that maybe the machines that we buy may not be as fast as the machines that we're subscribing to. So potentially, if I had something that was low risk, low volatility, but I needed a faster response, maybe I'd be willing to pay for a subscription to help me with that. But again, if it comes to offshore models, I'm not super excited, even if it is, you know, at 2% of the cost, I'm not sure that I'm excited about taking that data or giving much knowledge back out that direction. I might be kind of a homer and on that and try to keep it with the more domestic models.
Well, and I love that, Mike. And one of the things, guys, that we do. So we've talked a little bit about our agent computers. A large language model. If you're new to the show, that's ChatGPT, that's Grok, that's Gemini. You ask it a question, and it will bring you back a brilliant answer. The more context you give it, the better the question, the better the answers you get. Agents, an LLM is the engine, an agent is the truck. Now, when you have agents, they can actually go out and do and build and create. Here's a use case. I hosted for years a leadership training course in an what's okay, brain fry. When you host a course, it is in a learning management, an LMS, a learning management system. And I paid a $300 a month subscription to do this. It was never tuned exactly the way I wanted. It didn't have the features and functionalities the way I wanted. So we're building out a new course where we are teaching leaders how to become AI natives. And I have an agent team coding, writing, building the course for me. It has all of the specifications that I need. And here, this is kind of a little user tip. I'm having it be, it's helping me with design. I know what I want it to do, but then it's troubleshooting. It's got a UI expert. It's got an education expert. And when I say it has all of these functionalities, one things I want you to think about in terms of expanding your understanding of AI can take on, think, speak, and act from. I've never really run out of how many roles. I can create a beta class of 10 people. I can create a beta class of 20 people, and it will go through and review the code from different lenses and different paradigms and optimize my code for me. So that's just like one example of something I'm doing right now with AI and I've never taken a computer coding class. I know nothing. I don't know Python from, a Dali on a saddle.
And I have a horse rental operation that I'm a part of out on Catalina Island. We're in the process of building a financial dashboard, and we're in the process of taking the data and we're looking at forward looking cash projections, and we're looking at where our performance is against our performa. And it's what it's doing is it's taking something that used to take me maybe a week or two to go through and really do and get down with all the spreadsheets, and it's coming up with some pretty good recommendations of things to look at. I can take the PDFs or I can take the Excel spreadsheets and I can bring them in, and I can ask, hey, how are we producing compared to our 5-year performa? We're anticipating this amount of revenue coming in. We've got these things we want to spend money on. Can you give me a forward-looking cash flow that goes through and helps project over the next 12 weeks so we can help the operators out there really kind of plan and preserve. And that I'm starting to do that in almost all of our companies to where it's a pretty simple thing. I'm still, for anything that's really sensitive, so anything I'm doing within my family business practice, I'm anonymizing the data so that there's no way to go back and look and see who I'm talking about. But on these things, it's pretty straightforward, and I'm not too concerned at this moment about what we're doing. And it's going out, and it's producing great guidelines, so I can give 3 things to that operating team out there that they might look at with an idea of what the next 3 things might do as we solve those first 3 things.
So here's a way for you guys to start thinking about your relationship with AI. Um, we are now, we're filming this. It's the last or second to last day of June of 2026. The second half of this year, I am 100% convinced there's going to be a global AI awakening, and people are going to recognize that there is a talent and ability, a skill divide from people who know how to and are actively learning how to use these tools, and those who are kind of playing the ostrich game or the head in the sand game. And we're here to make learning about AI, using AI to be fun and to kind of give you step changes of going in. But think about AI agents this way. How much of your work do you do on your computer? how much research you do on your computer. Are you creating graphics? Are you creating PowerPoint presentation on your computer? Are you creating client proposals on your computer? If you are doing the work on your computer, your agent can do the work for you on your computer. And so and now the key is to create harnesses. And what a harness is we give our agents very specific parameters. This is the work, this is the system. We call it a loop, and they have checks and balances, and they are delivering things for us to review, and then we can then approve them and give them more access to continue the cycle. As we trust our agents more and more, we can automate more and more of those processes. And so what we're doing is we're compressing time. The length of time it takes you to research is 1/10 of what you used to do. The decision making speed that we have based on real time data is 1/10 of what it can be. And so just as you go through your day, how much time are you working on your computer? And how would your life be freed up if you learned how to delegate that, if you learned how to automate some of that? That's really the thought process.
Well, and I've got a landscape company I'm helping out as well that I'm sort of involved in, and we're building out. Another thing we did last week is we're starting to build out proposals that are actually HTML proposals that I can text to customers that come up with a full agronomic program with pictures, things to improve, pricing, what the what some proposed capital expenditures might be in the future. And the thing is that the more I do with that, the more that team that's running that company does with that, it learns. So it builds out assemblies. I only have to build that agronomic program out once. Agronomic program, for those of you who may not know, or kind of what is the 12-month schedule of fertilization and chemical control and basic mechanical maintenance you might do within a higher end landscape. Um, and so you go through and it gets built out, it gets adjusted based upon geography of where that is, how close to the coast, how far inland it is. And I only have to build it out once, and then it starts to adapt so that I can put out maybe 30 or 40 proposals a month on that easily. But each one gets better, and each one learns from the last one that I did. And so repetitive tasks become a lot less repetitive and suck up a lot less of your time. So you can spend more of your time that my team running that company can go through and spend more time doing what they need to do and what the customer truly values. Because customer doesn't really value sitting there on your rear end on your desk trying to create a proposal. What they value is, are you on their property and talking with your men and talking with your suppliers about how can they get a better product.
Right, right. And we mentioned this in the previous episode 8. If you can talk, if you can type, you can use AI, and you can use AI agents. And so again, start with fun things, start with simple things. Codex is the agentic arm of ChatGPT. Claude Code is the agentic arm of Anthropic. And there's there's an intimidation factor where like there shouldn't be any. Go in. Here's a use case. I think we're going to Portugal at the end of the summer, so I gave it our itinerary, the hotels we're staying at, and I said, create a beautiful travel brief for us with histories, restaurant recommendations, activities. We've got little kids with us, and it again, I like via my phone, it created within 10 minutes something that never could have even existed 3 or 4 years ago. This beautiful full routine. It knows, and it has context. It knows me. It knows our kids. It knows what kind of food allergies that people have. It knows what kind of events people like or people don't like. So spun that out, talking to my phone. And then Rhonda, my girlfriend, says, I don't know any Portuguese. And she's like, could you make an app for us? Kind of like, Duolingo, but really specific to our family? Sure. Talk to my Tat, who's my chief of staff. 5 minutes later, I've got a language app that's conversational. We love wine. We're foodies. We have grandbabies traveling with us. So, and again, you don't have to be a programmer. You don't have to be a coder. You just have to know what you want. And Mike, the thing that I'm getting surprised. I'm always pushing on what a lot of people, I think the wrong approach is, what can this machine do? I'm pushing on what can't it do, and it's rare that it can't. And
And
that's
what
that's
I'm
what's happening.
Yeah, when I bump into people who hear about AI, a lot of really bright people, really good business guys, are like, I'm not going to do that. It just tells me what I want to hear. It can't come up with anything unique. And I think over these last 3 or 4 months, you and I have figured out, no, it really can. It can be as unique as an entry level, maybe an elevated entry level employee in our organizations, and it can work. I can give it a set of tasks, and maybe in our one of our next, we need to do probably a podcast episode next on loops and building repetitive,
Yeah.
some of what we're doing on those, because I think that you can set it up so that when you log off at 5 or 6 o'clock at night, or whenever you log off, you can give 5 or 6 hours worth of instructions to it, so that when it's done and when you get back the next morning, it's already built together reports with bibliographies, or booked your calendars, or look through your email for what email have you missed that you didn't need to miss, and elevate those things that are important and subdue those things that are less important. But there's a lot of things that you can be doing with it, and just asking. Um,
Well,
and
so here are
again,
two really simple techniques: /plan in Codex and /goal in Codex. So, when I was building out chapter 1 of our course, I gave it, this is what I wanted to do. This is the way I want it to feel. These are the outcomes I have for it. I want you to create a /plan for building out and designing this course for me so that we can beta test it. Came back to me 2 minutes later with a /plan. I said, okay, now /goal. I want this to be ready to beta test. These are the parameters I need. Done is when you deliver me an actual membership area that I can move into, and I can do X, Y, and Z. And it spent over 24 hours. This is what's so exciting. It spent 24 hours. So I've got a team of the best coders, or some of the best coders in the world, spent 24 hours working on this goal, because I know what I want, and I'm telling you that. And with a simple Codex membership, with a Codex, it's the desktop app that you download from ChatGPT, no additional cost. You can give it a plan, give it a goal. Say, create I have a 6-year-old, and my 6-year-old loves dinosaurs. Create a game that teaches my 6-year-old all about dinosaurs and their history. And give me a plan, give me a /goal. You will be blown away. And that's why we really want you guys roll up your sleeves, because we're knuckle-draggers, right? Not afraid to get a little bit dirty. Roll up your sleeves and play and experiment. And play and experiment with things that are not IP. Mike's talked a lot about protecting his clients' private information, banking information. Well, so just play with things, play with ideas. It's mind expanding, metanoia. Expand your mind,
I think that's great.
right?
You know what? For today, this might be a good place to wrap it up, William, because I think there's a lot to talk about. And if we get into any other things that I have on my list, I think we could go another half hour, 40 minutes, or better.
I'm with you. I think this has been a great show. We love you guys. The posse is growing. Uh, Thank you to those guys. If you've already subscribed, we so appreciate it. If not, hit the subscribe button. And when you share our channel, when you share these with your friends, when you comment on it, when you give us a thumbs up, it helps the algorithm. It gets us out there. And we read all the comments. So if you've got questions about something, if you want us to cover something in a certain topic or way, we will respond, and we'll make it happen. And
We
Mike,
even read the mean comments, right?
that
It's okay. We
we
got
gotta
thick
have some
skin, guys.
haters out there. So we come out, we launch every Tuesday a new episode, and join us. We're having fun. The world is changing faster than you can imagine. Don't miss this. Get on the AI train, please.
Hey, join the posse. We're looking forward to having you, and come along the ride with us.
From the boots to the brim, we don't back down. We stand tall with that flag proud. Ain't no shame in red, white, and free. If you're looking for a fight, you found me. Got stars in my veins, stripes in my soul. Bald eagle glare when I'm taking control. No handouts, we built this land with grit, stained fists, and calloused hands. That freedom